Hey there, I'm Lat the Redeemed. I'm bringing you an Infinite Magicraid video. Infinite Magicraid is a new gacha game from DH Games. If you've played other games like AFK Arena or Raid Shadow Legends, you're probably familiar with the genre. You've caught me kind of in the middle of a new free-to-play account. I'm just going through the tutorial. I won't waste too much time with this, but I do want to talk about this game and whether or not it's something you want to play, and give you some of my thoughts on it as well. So I like these kind of games. I like the hero collection aspect of the game. I like the tactical thinking part of the game, trying to figure out how to beat the various challenges that it puts forward. Though it is worth noting that these games can be a little bit controversial because they do feature microtransactions, and different games within the space have different models. But there is an element of, if you're not careful, there's a temptation to go play to win, which is fine, right? Like if it fits in your entertainment budget and you want to spend a little bit of money on the game, great. But for me, a big part of the interesting part of these games is trying to excel at the game to the maximum extent possible without having to spend any money. To me, that's a kind of a unique challenge. It adds a different dimension to the game, or at least a little bit of a different dimension to the game. So, of course, the game has elements where you're collecting heroes, you're building teams, you're trying to find out how to equip them, which path you want to take with their skill trees, which have some variability to them. But the added challenge is, if you're going to play it free to play, is resource management. And the game has a lot of different types of resources available. And figuring out when to spend resources to build up your characters and aid in your progression, and when not to, is one of the, I think, more interesting challenges in the game. So we'll talk a little bit about that through this series, as well as how to make some of the tactical choices, and at least how I think through some of the tactical choices. So for right now, I'm just going, this is basically still tutorial, right? There's really not a lot of choices to make. It gives you a couple of heroes, you put them in a group, and they just sort of slaughter this first chapter of the campaign. And along the line, it's trying to teach you basic things like, there's this thing called equipment. The equipment has statistics, and you put it on your characters. But if you'll notice, like, most of the game is autoplay. So you can certainly run the campaigns and run the challenges manually if you want, and there's reasons to do that. You can get a little bit better results from your team if you're manually controlling it, but most of the game you want to be able to have your team manually or automatically go through. This is a good example. If I had to click every skill that the characters had, it would drive me absolutely crazy, because one of the features of a gacha game is the grind. Like, they're not a quick progression game. If you're used to PC RPGs or even RPGs and mobile devices, it's kind of like complete this encounter and move on to the next one. This one has more the character of what you might be used to in some of the massively multiplayer online games, where there is an amount of grind, where you do the same content over and over again to increase the skill on your players. And if you have to do that in manual mode every single time, it gets beyond monotonous. So, and especially this game in particular has elements of some of the idle games where things just sort of happen. The more time you spend in the game, and even when you're not in the game. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so I'm largely done with the tutorial, though in some extent it goes all the way through campaign mode, which is what this is. So see, we're in campaign stages. We get to Sword Harbor. Sword Harbor is sort of the first chapter of the game, and each campaign chapter is broken up into 10 waves. These are called stages. Each stage costs a certain amount of stamina. You start off with a maximum of 500 stamina. That changes as the game goes on, and you get more. You can also see that your stamina, let's see if it'll pop up for me here. There you go. So stamina regenerates on its own, so every 3 minutes you get 1 point of stamina, so that's helpful, although the game offers plenty of opportunities to get free stamina. So It's in the early game. It's usually not a big issue, but I'm going to go ahead and spend 4 stamina to progress to the next stage in the campaign. And when I get there, it shows me this screen here. These are the heroes that I've got that are going to be working on this stage. You can see I only have 3 heroes available, as this is the overall list. And these are the enemies I'm going to fight in the final stage. Each campaign has 3 stages. This symbol is sort of the rock, paper, scissors part of the game. You can see each hero has this, it's called a mark. It's up in the upper left-hand corner. You've got blue, red, green, and then there's a yellow mark, and so green beats red, red beats blue, blue beats green, and yellow isn't impacted all of it. How it actually translates is to, if you have an advantage over a color, you do more damage. If you're at disadvantage to a color, you take damage. And same goes with the amount of damage you deal. If you're at disadvantage, you deal less damage, and so on. There's some additional characteristics of heroes that we'll talk about later. That if you have heroes of the same type on the same faction, then you'll get some additional benefits based on how many of those factions are on the team. So you just click the battle button. It spends the 4 stamina, and then it's going to load, and it's going to automatically run through at kind of a reduced speed. This is actually 2 times the default speed, but before too long we'll open up and we'll get up to 4 times speed available. So we'll let this go through. We'll see the characters kind of do their own thing. Most of these characters are throwaway. They're low rank characters. Heroes have different levels available to them. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but they have various skills and attacks that they can do, and in a second here we'll finish this wave, and then boom, we're done. Hey, our overall character leveled up. We talked about we started with 500, now we can have a max of 510. We got a little bit of free stamina as part of that leveling up. It'll tell us we got a victory, we got 3 stars. The number of stars that you get from completing a level depend on how many turns it took you to complete the level, whether everybody survived or not. And in different parts of the game, there might be some different criteria. It shows you how much damage each character did during the 3 waves. It tells you this line is for any healing done. See, there is no healing on any of our heroes right now. And then this tells you how much damage each of the heroes took as part of it. And then you get some rewards that are, sometimes you'll get rewards that are unique the first time you complete. So you get a little bit extra the first time you complete an area, and then there's sort of default rewards that you get afterwards. So we got some experience for leveling up the overall character. We got some of these experience potions. You'll get a ton of these, which allow you to level up your heroes later. Some coin, which can be spent for a variety of things, mostly on improving your gear. And then we got a gear drop. So we got a new sword that has sort of a default skill, and then has an extra attribute called healing effect. And you can sell that and keep it. In the early game, I usually just keep it, and then I'll sell it all in batch a little bit later. So if we go back to the campaign loading screen, talk about these stars a little bit and why you care how many stars you get, is if you go sort of over here, you'll see we've gotten a total of 18 stars so far out of Sword Harbor. That means we get a little reward. We get a couple of nice experience potions that we can use. And as you go on, you get nicer and nicer rewards the further into the game you get, and the more completely that you solve the game. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off Sword Harbor. There's probably no real reason to show that, and then I'll be back and we'll go through the next part. Alright, so we completed all 10 stages of the first chapter. We're up to character level 4. We're still sitting on more stamina than we need, 584. And we unlocked a new feature when we finished the first chapter called Wish, which is a fundamental component of the game. So let's go ahead and click on this Wish section and see what it opens up. Alright, so it opens up this interface right here. We're going to start with refined wishes, and it wants us to press this wish times 10. What that's going to do is going to give us 10 new heroes to choose from. Now, a refined wish is the lowest level of wish, and it pulls what will come to term as food or fodder. These are heroes we're not actually going to use in the game to fight any battles, though you can. They have skills and they can wear equipment and all that stuff. But you can see these are just 1-star heroes that we pulled, which is pretty common for the refined wishes. So we'll go ahead and confirm that. It's going to take us out of here. And then we take these 1-star heroes, so we go over to the crafting hall, and we're going to turn these 1-star heroes into 2-star heroes. So you see, we start off with some of these 1-stars that we have, and for every 6 1-star heroes that we have, we get a 2-star hero. So we're going to do that. Here we go, we get a 2-star hero. Now, that's good news, because that's the kind of thing we need to level up. The bad news is, we're not going to use 2-star heroes either. We're going to eventually turn our 2-star heroes into 3-star heroes. And how many does it take? It takes 6. So if you're quick at math, you realize, well, if it takes 6 1-star heroes to make a 2-star hero, and it takes 6 2-star heroes, that makes a 3-star hero. Well, now you need the equivalent of 36 1-star heroes in order to get a 3-star hero. It's good news, right? We can start using our 3-star heroes. Well, no, we don't. We're using them right now in the tutorial because that's all we have, but we're going to replace those very soon. So these 3-star heroes are still not powerful enough. They're more powerful than 2-star, which are more powerful than 1-star, but they're not going to work for the game in general once we get out of these complete early areas. And so, take a guess at how many you need? You're going to need 6 3-star heroes in order to get a 4-star hero. And we wouldn't actually use a 4-star version of these heroes. There's actually a classification of hero that are on the 4-star. Now it's going to tempt us with some pay to proceed kind of, or not pay to, I call it pay to win. But if you want to do microtransactions, you can spend some money and you can get some advantages. I'm just going to skip over that because we're not interested in doing that. But let's take the opportunity to take a quick look at the hero screen. So you'll see the heroes have different background colors. So there's these purples, which say epic next to them. These blues are elite, and then we've got common, which are these sort of gray, greeny kind of backgrounds. So no matter what star level they are, we're really never going to use the up to elite. And there's the common, there's the elite, there is these sort of, or I should say, there's common, there's rare, there is elite, and there is sort of, you start to get here to the epic. And the epic are the purple. There's a tier above that called legend, which will be a yellow background, and then I don't know if it's open yet, but we'll take a look now. It's not open yet. There's also a tier of hero called mythic, which are very challenging to get, but are the most powerful heroes in the game. But for our purposes, what we're concerned about up front are the epic heroes. That's what we're going to build our team around, and then as we start to get legend, we'll fit those in. And each team is made up of 5 players. And let's just look at Christian. He's an epic hero. He'll be with us for a little while. He's a big part of the early game, and he's pretty solid. So he's what's called a defense hero, which means a lot of his abilities scale off of his defense capability. He's of the blue mark, and we talked about that a while back as sort of the rock, paper, scissors. And he's a member of this faction called the Sword Harbor Guards. And so there's 10 or 11 factions in the game. And the more heroes you deploy on a team of the same faction, the more of these kind of abilities you get. So, these can be nice, and in some cases you'll build your teams around that idea. And you see he's got a level. He is level 11 of 80, and there's a couple of different ways to increase his level. One is by in the campaigns or the dungeons, you'll get some experience every time you complete. You can also do it explicitly by using these potions. So if I click upgrade, it'll use one of my potions or however many it needs to get the amount of experience it requires. So you can see I just went to level 13, and you get some additional capabilities, some more hit points of attack and defense as you level up. So you're going to want to level your heroes as far as they can go, and how far they can go depends on the number of stars that they have. So with 4 stars, he can go to level 80. When he gets to 5 stars, he'll be able to get to level 100. And going back to our sort of rule of 6s, there's going to need to be there's going to need to be 6, including him. So 5 additional 4-star heroes in order for him to become a 5-star hero. And so what we'll do is we'll slowly, as we get these heroes into our crafting hall, we'll increase the 1s to 2s, the 2s to 3s, the 3s to 4s, so on until we can level him up to 5. Once he's been level 5, he becomes what's known as an awakened hero, which we can't make right now, but it's this, he'll go to awakened level 1, awakened level 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you sort of need an escalating number, an increasing number of heroes to feed into him. They call it crafting, other games call it food, so that he becomes more powerful. His level range increases and his base stats go up as well. So each hero has a set of starting stats. This is the overall list of what they are and what they do. You can see where he's rated right now. This green REC means this is the recommended stat for him, and let's take a look at why that's recommended after we go through his skills. So his first skill, this is his basic attack. He'll use this anytime he doesn't have something better out there. So he's going to strike each enemy twice. Actually, it's going to be a single enemy. And on the second attack, there's a 20% chance that he's going to stun the opposing enemy. So what is stun? It's pretty obvious. It means that the opponent is going to lose its next turn. Down here, each skill has levels. And if you invest some of the precious resources that you get into this character, there's a chance that these levels will increase, and then his damage on his basic attack will go up. His active skill, which other games may call the A2, is called Guardian's Gift. This means it has a cooldown, which means it's only usable every 5 turns, and it gives a shield worth 20% of Christian's max hit points to all allies for 2 turns. Shield does pretty much what you expect. It blocks damage. Unless otherwise noted, damage doesn't go through a shield. It removes the shield first and then does real damage. There are some skills that will bypass shields or have advantage against shields, but you won't see those really in the early game. Same thing if you put they're called books, into leveling up the skills on a hero, it could have an impact here. If it applies to Guardian's Gift, it will reduce the cooldown so it can become every 3rd turn you can use it. Heroes have generally a passive skill, which happens when certain conditions are met. This says there's about a 1 in 4 chance to shorten the cooldown of a skill called Sword of Justice by 1 turn whenever Christian takes direct damage. So the more hits he gets, the more cooldown is reduced on Sword of Justice. And Sword of Justice is what's called his ultimate. It's a big AE direct damage of 240% of Christian's attack to all the enemies that he's facing. And so the default cooldown is 5. Every time he takes direct damage, there's a 1 in 4 chance that its cooldown will drop. And then by leveling this up, you can increase its damage output and cooldown. These skills often also have this exclusive tag on it. The exclusive it's an additional set of abilities that the hero gets, or is really more like a modification of existing abilities. If you get the hero to awaken, so if we get Christian to awaken, and then we feed Christian copies of himself, or there's a very rare item that can serve as any hero, we feed that to a hero, then he gets the shield, and it gets better and better, and makes him more powerful. So there's quite a long skill tree available, or ability tree available to turn a hero into something which, he's not bad in the early game, just default, but can turn him into a real powerhouse as you go along. Heroes have this thing called emblems. Emblems are more of a direct skill tree. So you can make choices by spending resources that you acquire by fighting against certain parts of the game against the skill tree, and you could say, well, I want to increase his critical rate, or I want to increase his attack. You can pick damage, or you can pick things in the support. I want him if he had effects that need to get through to an enemy, like the stun. This would increase the likelihood that the stun would go through without being resisted, or increase his overall health. The trick with this tree is you can't pick everything. So, this over here means once he is ascended at level 1 and we can start applying these, they're called emblems, he can pick 2. So, and it has to be one from 2 different trees. So once you lock in a tree, let's say that he picks the attack and defense tree, the support tree is therefore locked and he can't choose any skills from that. And he can't pick 2 attacks. It has to be, at least one from each. So there's a little bit of thought that goes into how you want to scale out your character. Although there's some general rules for different types of heroes, so it shouldn't be an agonizing choice. The last piece for heroes that we'll take a look at is the equipment. So when you went through the tutorial, you got some basic equipment for Christian. Right now all we have is a few pieces of gear. It's called attack gear. That's what this little sword is for. This means that for every 2 pieces of this kind of gear, you get this extra benefit. So for attack gear, you get plus 15% to your attack. The gear itself has a base stat. So weapons have attack, armor has defense, boots have speed, and accessories have hit points. And you can level up the gear. So let's take a look at boots. If I want to, it starts off at level 0. If I want to put a little bit of coin into it, I can go to level 1, and you can see what will happen is the speed will go up. And let's do that, until we get to level 3, and then when I unlock at level 4, it's going to unlock this first extra attribute, and it will be random from all the attributes that are available. And you can see here, HP rate. Okay, so this is actually pretty good for us. Christian is a hit point hero. The shield that he generates for the entire team is based on his max hit points. So the more hit points he has, the bigger the shield will be for everyone out there. And that happens every 4 levels. If I took it up to level 8, we would get a second one here. If I took it up to level 12, this third one would open, and then at level 16, this fourth would open. And that's because the gear is common. And when gear is common, means none of these are known up front. Let's see if we can find, so here's a piece of gear that has this green border, which means it's not common, it's rare. Rare gear has one of the attributes already known. So if I level this piece up to 4, we'll take it up to 3 here, and then if I click the 4th, the next, this healing effect will automatically go up because there's no other choices. This has already been unlocked. So I'll do that, boom, we get +1 to healing effect. And then if I go down through 8, this will unlock, 12, this will unlock, 16, this will unlock. If you think about it a second, you probably realize that this goes, next is Elite, which means that the first 2 are known, then Epic, which means that the first 3 will be known, and then Legend, the first 4 would be known. So your best gear is Legend, because you already get all the attributes at sort of a base level, and then as you level the items up, you get more than you would if it was common. So for now, all we have is this kind of gear. If we want to take a look, in fact, here you can see an elite piece, and yes, indeed, the first 2 are known. Since we really want hit points on Christian according to the guide, we're going to take a quick look and see if there's anything that has hit points on it. And the only thing that has hit points on it is this ATK gear. I'm going to go ahead and let's see what are the, so let's see. This is the piece we have. It doesn't have any stats. This is the piece that's available. Okay, this has crit damage on it. So this is already a little bit better than just this piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just enhance this a little bit. See, it's costing me 270 gold to go from level 1 to 2, 470 to go level 2 to 3, and to get to level 4 costs me 1,200. So it's about 2,000 gold or so, give or take, to get an item up to level 4. That's super cheap. That amount of gold you will find constantly. You get more hit points that we can use to make shields bigger, plus enhance his own survivability, and you get a little bit of a bonus to crit damage. So when he does hit with a critical attack, he'll do just a touch more damage. So we're going to go ahead and swap that in. And then let's take a look at these boots versus these boots. So, I think actually, to be honest, I think I like these. Hit point rate is probably more useful to us than resist. It would, hit point rate means that his hit point total will go up by 1.8. And then, here, this looks different. So we have armor at a 1-star versus we've got a 3-star armor with the elite. Now, what the stars do is they increase the magnitude of how this default skill changes. So, you can see how this 3-star has a base defense of 360 and this 1-star has a base defense of 120. That's because this is 3-star. This also has mastery, which is not really all that helpful. Mastery, we can pull it up. I thought we could. Over here? No? Go back. So mastery affects the damage dealt by dot debuffs. Dots are damage over time. There's some good ones in the game. Christian doesn't have them. So mastery is not a particularly useful skill. Well, it's not a useful skill at all for Christian. So we don't need that. But speed is a useful skill. The faster a hero goes, the more likely it is to go before the enemies. So he'll get a chance to put damage down or put his shield up before the heroes that you're opposing in whatever the combat is. So this is actually this is a pretty nice little piece for this stage of the game, right? Like later on, you'll just throw this stuff away and then sell it, almost immediately. But for now, we're going to go ahead and we'll take this up to level 4. Let's hope for speed, not mastery, and we did. So that first level went into speed, so the speed increased up to a 28. The defense increased as well, so we're gonna swap that out for the piece that we've got, and then let's take a look at the sword here. So the sword, again, mastery, not super useful. The ATK is already higher at level 0 than it is with 4 on this, so I'm going to go ahead and enhance this to level 4 as well. Hopefully we'll get this resist. It's not going to be a huge impact early game, but this helps us resist effects that enemies are putting on us. Now, unfortunately, we got mastery that makes this, this skill not useful, but our attack went up, so we'll do a little bit more damage. And that's how equipment works. And as the game goes on, you'll get a lot more pieces in here, and you'll have a lot of interesting choices, and you'll be sometimes at the mercy of the random number generator to try to get you the best possible sub-skills that you can get to really juice up the ability of your character to either kill the enemy or protect your team from the enemy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through these elites. Like I said, these are going to be fodder very soon. They're just not strong enough to progress in the game. And then I'll just give a real high level on Eden. Maybe we'll talk about her in a little bit more detail. Eden is your first healer. Healers are a good part of most teams at keeping you alive to mitigate some of the damage that they're doing. She also has some of her skills manipulate turn meters, and I think if I remember for Eden, she has a debuff that reduces the attack value of the enemy, which causes them to do less damage. She has an ability that increases the attack of the party, and then she has a heal for the party. What's her passive? So she increases her own speed at the end of each turn. So she doesn't affect the turn meter of anyone else in the group or the enemies, but she does impact her own speed. So she's kind of your frontline basic healer, and we'll use her for a while as well. Let's go back to the main screen. I think that's about as far as I want to go on this before the video gets too long. So this is Lath the Redeemed signing off. We'll continue this free-to-play series at another time, and if you enjoyed this video, please throw me a like. It'll make it easier for others to find the content, and if you want to keep following to see future editions of this, or some of the analytical videos I do that do a little bit of a deep dive into some of the mechanics and cost structures of the game, then pop a subscribe on there. Till then, have a good day.